Welcome into this Thursday morning, the 29th day of August. In studio, the new superintendent for the Alton Community Unit School District, number 11, Elaine Kane. Good morning. How are we doing?
Hi, CJ. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited. This is really cool. You know, it's been really exciting for me to see your transition into becoming superintendent because my entire life I saw you throughout the school district helping in a variety of roles. And to be here now is just a really cool full circle moment.
Absolutely. Well, it's certainly a thrill for me, that's for sure.
So I got to ask you this. When did you know that you'd be the next superintendent of the school district?
You know, that's a good question for a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So I have to tell you, when I first started teaching, you know, I wanted to come back to the Alton School District. I had graduated from college, and it was my hope to teach here. And this was in 1993. The teachers were plentiful and the jobs were not. So I spent my first year substitute teaching in Alton, and then I actually worked a year at Grafton Elementary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was hired as a long-term sub there. But then in 94, I was hired in Alton. So I've been here ever since. Mm-hmm. And I've served the district in a variety of roles. And it just to be honest, things just happened and timing just so happened that every opportunity that I had to transition made sense, either for me personally, and in addition, it made sense for the district. And so I've followed that pathway from teaching reading and being a reading interventionist into a literacy coach working with teachers, and then into the director of curriculum, which was a natural fit. And then the timing worked out to where the assistant superintendent position opened, and that was a good fit. And then last year when Christy was leaving, it was the work that we're doing to me was so important, and it just meant so much to me that I felt it was appropriate to step up into this position.
Well, and honestly, it's just going back just to that thought, you know, working in all those aspects and all those roles with all these different types of people, it's got to have really prepared you well for this type of job where you're in charge of, or overseeing every different component and aspect of a pretty large district.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't want to do it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because the 31 years that I've been in Alton have been so just meaningful to me because of the relationships. And this is my home. As you
right.
well know, right? I'm an Alton High graduate. Our 4 kids graduated from Alton High School. So it's personal. The work here for me is personal. This is my community. I live across the street from the high school. And so the investment, what it takes to do this job and serve in this role, I think you have to have your heart in it.
100%.
Yep.
And you know, speaking of the district as a whole, because we all know what drew you back into the district growing up here, but as a whole, what draws people from outside of the district that want to teach in Alton? Is there a few instances that you can share from maybe new employees or maybe teachers that shared why they chose to leave their respective districts and come here to Alton?
Well, there's definitely, when I started, when I said teachers were plentiful and jobs were not, it's not, that's not the way it is at this point. But what Alton offers, and what people have said to me directly, and particularly people who came here this year, you know, we're a large district, which some people see as challenging, but what we do really well is team really well. And so when you're in Alton, you know that you always have a network of people who are going to be rallying for you, supporting you. You know that if you don't know the answer, you can partner with someone else who may know the answer. And, you know, when you take a group of talented people, everyone has strengths and constraints, right? But when you put it together in a group with a highly effective team, you get really great results. And so it just feels, I think, you know, what people have said to me is when they're coming from a smaller district, then they realize there's strength in operating on a team that's cohesive, that has the same mission and vision.
Well, and on top of that too, you know, that team's been able to see so many great improvements just even before you took over as superintendent. Absolutely. Your time as assistant superintendent with Christy, you know, the sports complexes and all of this huddle system, and the way that you were able to really elevate the experiences of not only student athletes, but just students in general, especially in the arts too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's always great to kind of highlight and point out because, you know, even before this role, you were actively working for that as well.
Absolutely. And you know, the unsung heroes, I say it every chance I get, the Alton School Board.
Oh, yeah.
Seven people who volunteer their time because they care about the community and they have the best interest of students and staff and families as a priority in their lives. So they give their time. And people think, oh, well, some people are mistakenly think they're paid. They're not. They're volunteers in Illinois. Also, some people think, well, they go to one meeting a month. I can tell you that they have all kinds of special board meetings. They have a finance meeting every month, and they come and they attend. And our school board, what's so admirable and what makes them, so the meetings so pleasant is they're wonderful listeners. So they'll come to the table and they bring their own experience and their own expertise, but they listen to each other. And when we walk out of those meetings, we're united and we know that we're making the best decision with putting kids first. And so they had the facilities as a priority. So when you think about the sports complex and the high school on Humber Road,
it's beautiful.
It's incredible.
Yes, it is.
When that project started, I was a teacher at J.B. Johnson Elementary School.
No kidding.
Yes, and let me tell you, I was none too happy because J.B. Johnson was a precious elementary school, and I loved working there as an elementary teacher. And so I had no idea the vision of the board when they moved us out and started to build that high school. But when you look at the property they were able to obtain behind the school and the fact that you have, at the end of the school day, you have kids walking out to softball, baseball, tennis, soccer, track, right there on campus, football practice on campus. And so the property is incredible. And that's just one example of their commitment to facilities that this community can really be proud of.
And then, continued updates. You have the baseball field back there that's getting new turf on it this year, the softball fields, the soccer fields. I mean, those things go a long, long way. And then talking about campus life, you're preparing students that way for college because they're going to have that kind of, at least that footprint of, hey, after school, I know that I'm going up to the locker room for the soccer practice, or I'm going to football to get ready for our runs that day. And then that way you kind of have that, school's the center point, but there's different spokes on the wheel that get you ready for that footprint.
Yep. And
really cool.
Absolutely. And every property, when you look, if you walk through the schools and the improvements and the maintenance that's had to be a priority for our maintenance department and for our school board and for our finance department to prioritize those things to keep our schools looking fantastic, it's a huge source of pride.
It is. And then, speaking of the school board, we're really lucky right now because everyone on there is a big community advocate and not just for community, but also big time youth advocates as well. And I think that's huge. But I wanted to talk real quick about your relationship and how the superintendent works with the school board, because I think sometimes as a public, we don't really understand that relationship, and there definitely is one there.
So true. And really, when you asked about my decision to be superintendent, I can assure you that the school board, the members of the school board, were a huge part of my decision.
Oh, I bet.
The trust that I have in that team of people and the example that they've set for prioritizing students in every decision is one of the reasons that I felt safe and secure to step up into this role. But the school board, they have one employee, and that's me, right? And so they hire me, and then they trust me to make decisions within the district and to manage the team. And so it is an interesting perspective for people who don't work within it, because I think people are like, well, I'm going to call the school board, or I want to talk to a school board member, but they function as a unit. Mm-hmm. So no one school board member can speak to an issue on behalf of the school board. They talk with each other, and then they come forward with a unified statement or a unified response.
And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
Because that's really what starts all the different questions, and a lot of rumors start that way because you have someone maybe speaking out of turn or just not in that unified front. And you guys have done a really good job of that this year too. And now with the overall vision of the district, the next couple of years, I don't know if you have a personal 5-year plan for what you think the district should look like, but you have a vision for some things that you'd like to accomplish, for the board to accomplish, and some top priorities?
Well, we do have a plan, and actually we started articulating the plan about 18 months ago. So we're in the second year of what we would consider our district improvement plan. And we when we name these goals and we talk about how we do business, the first thing we articulated is there are two roles in a school district, and we really believe this to be true. There are those who teach and those who create the conditions for teaching and learning. Okay, so really if you think
cool.
about it, if we frame everybody's responsibilities in that, anybody who's directly interacting with a student, we consider a teacher. You're influencing that student. They're learning from you.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? And so I get an opportunity to teach from time to time, not to the extent of somebody who's taking on the curriculum objectives. But when I'm in the high school or on middle school or any school, I always consider myself having an opportunity to influence and teach. And most of us do have opportunities, but the majority of my time and the school board time and our central office team is setting conditions for teaching and learning. And so every time we make a decision or allocate resources, we're asking ourselves, is that going to create excellent conditions for teaching and learning? Because that's what we believe the students and the staff in Alton deserve. They deserve outstanding conditions. And so we're always, that's our, our gut check, right? That's how we do business. But within the work with our administrative team and our school improvement teams in each school, we really lifted up 3 priorities. The first one is creating a culture of belonging. So we know that people go where they feel like they belong, right?
Absolutely,
You thrive when you know you belong. And so we have to be really intentional about creating a culture of belonging for our students and our staff so that they have the assurances that we're all in this together and that they're going to get what they need and beyond. Our second goal is grade appropriate instruction and assignments. So when we say that, we're saying every student, right, deserves access to the core curriculum. So we know the standards are the same all across the United States. So students in Alton are going to be just as prepared as students in any other community and across the United States. So we're constantly checking ourselves, are we teaching to that high expectation? And then the third is highly effective PLCs, professional learning communities, which are our teams. Okay. So our administrative team is a professional team, our school board is a professional team, each grade level team of teachers is a professional team. And so functioning as teams, that's one of our priorities because we know that's how we do our best work. So those are the 3 goals identified in our district improvement plan, and every school improvement plan organizes their work with those 3 goals.
That's and very beneficial for us to know that too. For maybe if we have a little one out there in the elementary portion of the school district, we can understand maybe why some of those decisions are being made and how they fit that overall plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting into where you're at now in society and life, I mean, you're in a tough position now, stepping into the role of superintendent. And I'm not trying to goat you or anything, but I mean, we're in a world of social media where we have new apps every day and new ways that kids are online in some way, shape, or form, sometimes without even knowing. How do you guys as a district and just you personally, how are you looking to combat some of those maybe outer district challenges that filter into the district, and also just how social media has been playing such a negative role on mental health and students overall?
That's a really good question, and one of the things that I anticipated you were going to ask were our biggest challenges, right?
I just assumed on this one. I shouldn't have done that.
No, you named it, and it's absolutely true. Anything that's going on out in society walks right into the school with the kids and with our families, and so some of the things that we've talked about and we're doing, we do have a cell phone policy, and we had a cell phone policy in place at the middle school. Students keep their cell phones in their lockers. At the high school, the cell phones make their ways into pockets and into classrooms. And so we've really come out strong with a stronger cell phone policy in our schools, in our classrooms at the high school. So that's something that high school students are getting adjusted to, because we know it's an interference in a number of ways. It interferes with learning, it interferes socially. And people think they're connected when they have the cell phone in their hand, and what they're missing are key connections with the people all around them, right?
Exactly.
And so but we also know research shows that we're addicted to those phones.
True.
And so we're compelled to all of us, right?
Yeah. Every one of us.
Yep. And so that cell phone policy is really important, and being able to support students through that and be consistent in our expectations there. Another piece, when you talk about social media, and our dependence upon social media as a source of communication. One of our key decisions this year was we felt like we know that we were relying on social media to communicate, but yet it was ineffective, right? Because people are submersed in social media, and what our messaging was getting blurred. And so we have purchased a platform called Parent Square this year. And Parent Square, you can be a subscriber to Parent Square with the Alton School District as a community member, and you can say which topics topics you're interested in and which organizations you want to see posts from. So we can post in Parent Square instead of Facebook. We can push it from
That's
Parent
safer.
Square. Yes, we can push it from Parent Square to Facebook if we elect to, but Parent Square allows two-way communication with all of our followers without having people who aren't actually connected to the district interfering with our communication platform. It also allows people to RSVP for events. It allows for direct messaging. It allows you to say, hey, I want to get a text or a phone call or an email. You can do your preferred communications. Teachers can use it. Your
cool.
district can use it, your administrators can use it, your coaches and your advisors for student organizations can use it. So we're really trying to get away from the reliance of drawing people back to Facebook or any other social media platform, right?
Well, we are too, because it's getting to a point now where it's getting really dangerous. Because you're having, like you said, people from way out of the district that have never even stepped foot into Alton that are commenting on things. Because I've seen it, and I click on a picture, I'm like, well, they're from Kansas, so what are they doing here, you know?
Exactly. Yes.
But also, from another standpoint, it helps for any extracurricular. That individual, I'm sure that coach or that meeting leader or that organization leader is feeling safer too, because when I coach and work with kids, that's always been the question: is what's the best app for the parents to use? Because I'm never going to talk to your child, I'm going to talk to you. So how can we keep everyone connected to where we make sure that we're all safe? And I love this idea of it, because you aren't having any of those question marks anymore.
Exactly.
Really cool.
Exactly. It was a big decision this summer, and we're really excited about it. Now everyone's adjusting to it, right? So we're like, hey, are you on Parent Square? But even if you see a post from us on Facebook, when you click on it, it will put you right back into Parent Square.
Perfect.
So we're showing people you do not have to be on a social media platform to know what you want to know from the Alton School District.
Absolutely. And then, is that the challenge right now, the biggest one that you think is definitely social media?
Well,
or any others that you'd like to share?
I would say anything that's going on in the community that does challenge us to adjust to in the school. But the other thing that's obvious, and we talked about it earlier, and that's staffing.
Yeah.
So making sure that we have the high quality teachers in some of the harder to fill positions, right? And so there's a ton of people just like me who hired in. And are getting ready to retire or have already retired, right?
Yeah.
And not that I'm getting ready to retire, but they're my age group. And so people are starting to make that choice, and we're not getting as many new teachers into the profession as we would like. One of the factors, and I try to bring this up everywhere I go, is in Illinois, the teacher retirement system currently has a tier 2 for new hires, and this has been going on for years. But right now in Illinois, if you started teaching, you would need to be 67 to get your full retirement. 67.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can, we're a border state, so you can go right over to Missouri.
To very competitive private schools, too.
Competitive, and you can retire sooner. So
Right.
young people who have choices when jobs are plentiful, we're competing in a really tough market right now in Alton and in Illinois.
I will follow you up with this, though. It's been great to see kids that graduated in my class teaching in the district.
Yes,
I
I'm glad
mean
you
that
noticed.
because there's a lot that graduated from 2017 that are now into that adulthood
Yes.
stage, and I love that, Elaine.
Yes.
That to me is what a community school district is.
And it's been so fun. We say we love to bring our redbirds
Yeah.
home. And so I know I bet I know who you're thinking of, a few of them.
Yeah.
And, when people reach out and say, hey, I'd like to come home, or like, come on home. And we are, I will say, our last contract negotiation was the best contract that we've been able to offer. We go back into, we're in our third year of 3 years. And so the board was proud to make a great offer last year. We're doing it again, back into negotiations this year. And we're doing everything we can within the constraints of the teacher retirement system to make sure that we are as competitive as we possibly can be.
Absolutely. And, speaking of just, we were talking earlier about infrastructural improvements in schools. I know that the middle school just got a brand new gym, and then that auxiliary gym at Alton High is wonderful.
Isn't it great? Yes,
super
you were
cool.
there for the career fair,
Yeah, it was
right?
wonderful. Is there any other major upgrades outside of the fields that we already talked about that are planned currently for this fiscal year, or is that a stay tuned?
Well, you know that we just, we had at Gilson Brown Elementary, we removed a portable classroom and put an addition on the back
I
of
did
Gilson
not
Brown.
notice that.
It's gorgeous. It's really nice. And then we did the same thing at Lovejoy Elementary, had a portable classroom that we removed and put an addition on Lovejoy. You can't see them from the curb, but believe me, you can feel it inside. It feels really good because it's given the schools a little space to spread out. So those are finished. The other thing that is in progress, almost finished on, we're in the adding safety vestibules to schools.
Oh,
so
cool.
like at East Elementary is one that you might notice if you're driving on Washington, you might be able to see it but just a secondary security measure between the front door and the end door. So our guests aren't stuck waiting outside until they're buzzed in, right? They can come in, and then we have that safety vestibule. So 4 schools this summer, we were able to add safety vestibules, and we're in the process of continuing on with that.
And honestly, the way that you guys kept Wes safe this year, I mean, honestly, it looks great, because at first, I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit to get used to, but as a parent, I feel a lot safer sending my kid to a game now you're going through security, protocols to go through. And I'm serious. Yes. I think it's wonderful. Yep. I think that's a great addition. Well,
any large gathering, I mean, everywhere you go, you're just getting used to walking through those systems. And it's a layer that, our goal is to keep everyone safe as we can reasonably manage, and
that's a good point.
And, so we're not trying to create anything other than a comfortable setting for our guests, but that really is manageable, and it's really it's an important tool that we can afford to use.
Well, and with all these changes now in technology, and now obviously too the huge need for trade, employees, and I know that they have the Cave in Belleville and all these other opportunities now with the East Alton plant. I know they want to help with a big center. We were talking to them a little bit, but how do you envision curriculum evolving? In the next couple of years, what do you envision coming into the district to give students another chance to learn something new? What are your thoughts there?
Well, you saw in the spring we had what was our first job fair.
It turned out well.
It wasn't like Explore Career Fair.
Right.
It was like you can get a job walking out of high school. We had 24 vendors showed up. It was great. And that was in response to what we know is happening in the market, right? People, if students are willing and able to work, there's opportunities for them at graduation, and definitely in the trades and in other industries. You saw it right there on campus. So college is obviously an option, and so are many other things, right? Right out of high school. So one of, and this is, I'll give you a teaser on this, but we are paying really close attention to our career and technical education offerings at the high school. Mm-hmm. And we have a strong program right there on campus. If you know, J.B. Johnson was the vocational center, and we built the high school around the vocational center.
And the welding program that you guys have is phenomenal.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And our construction trades. And we restored our biomed program. So we're back in the business of preparing nurses and people who want to be in the medical industry. But we just yesterday had our first community stakeholder meeting that included students, staff from CTE, and community representatives. We're partnering with the New Teacher Project, and they were able to get a grant from General Motors. And so we have 4 pathways that we're developing at the high school. And so yesterday was the big advisory group. And so we're just making that really clear for students because, well, how old were you when you started high school?
Ooh.
14?
Yeah.
So when you're coming into high school, you're not necessarily thinking about what do I want to do to make a living, right? You're just like, hey, I wonder what school's going to be like, and it's going to be fun. But we're making those pathways more obvious for students and families because a lot of families don't realize how the labor market has changed and what people can make, the income potential for some of these positions that are open that are understaffed.
Well, that's a really good point too, and I think family involvement is critical in any student's success, and to be able to inform them, but also get them excited for their student in a way that's not necessarily here's what you're going to do or here let me hold your hand, but just hey, did you try that out today? Did you get a chance to go and see if you could maybe apply for that biomed program and be a part of it? To me, that's how you really drive a student to achieve more in education and in life.
Well, we had students yesterday because a big part of it was gathering student feedback, right? Because that's your customer.
Right.
And we had students say yesterday that the reason they came to school was for those pathway programs, because that's when they saw school become relevant and connected to their goals. And so it's a priority for us. Our CTE teachers are outstanding. Our department is a source of pride. And so we just continue to build into that and to resource that and to develop that and to stay abreast with what's happening in the world, because you have to be, what some of the teachers used to do who are still in the program, they no longer do because it's not relevant for students. So
well, and that's a really good point. And one thing I wanted to talk about too before we wrap up here, because I kept you way too long, sorry about that, is I just wanted to highlight something that I don't think a lot of parents realize, and just the public, that every teacher you have is in some way a counselor in some way, shape, or form, because we're big on mental health on this show. I had Centerstone on, we have them on all the time.
Sure.
But there's been times, Elaine, where I've watched people in administrative roles, all the way down to being, janitors and security guards, that are literally being that shoulder to cry on, or that motivation for that student, because they don't have that at home.
Yep.
And so I think it's always really good to talk about that the educators in ACUSD 11, along with the administrators, are playing two roles a lot of the time. And that's what I think is always good to highlight too.
Really noted. And when I say the district's number one goal is creating a culture of belonging, that is part of that work, right? Is to be mindful of that. And I always say, I serve this district with pride and gratitude. Pride because I think education is a noble profession. I'm proud to be an educator and work with great educators in Alton. And gratitude because when I think back on my experience at Alton High School, I can still tell you who made the difference for me.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily the guidance counselor, but the important adults in each student's lives are within those schools oftentimes. And so we take that responsibility really seriously to pay attention to the whole child, develop the whole child, and tend to the social emotional well-being of our students and families as well. So thank you for noting that, because it is something that we're very intentional about.
Absolutely. And then wrapping up, you already answered the last question with this new app that is not Facebook, but Facebook for the school district in a safer way. But what's your message to the district? Year one, here you are as the superintendent. What's your message today to the RiverBend audience?
Well, I always say Alton is a great place to be. What we know about our community is all we have to do is say the word, and we have people showing up in support of the schools, and it's just a great place to be an educator in Alton. It feels really good. When you said, why do people come to Alton? I think people who are new to the community are just stunned at the network of support that's here in Alton. And so I say we're building on the great things that we started. When I talk to Chrissy Baumgartner, I always tell her, hey, here's what you want to know about the seeds that you planted when you were here, right? There's
that's a good note.
Seeds.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to continue to build on great things. And it's been a very upbeat start to the school year. Our staff and students came back happy. It feels really good to have the schools back to life, and I'm just appreciate a chance here to talk about it.
No problem. And Elaine, thank you so much for your time. You're welcome back anytime to share district news. We'll take a quick break here on RiverBender.com. This Thursday morning, we'll continue. We'll wrap up the Thursday that was right after this quick break on RiverBender and Roku Get Over Here TV.